The alarms screamed through every corridor of Kepler Station. Red lights flashed across metal walls, turning everything into a nightmare glow. The sound was deafening, sharp, endless, filled with panic. Thousands of beings ran for their lives. Engineers, traders, families, all rushing through narrow passages carrying whatever they could. Children cried, clutching their parents. Security officers shouted orders no one could follow. In the command center, Commander Veltara stood frozen before the main screen. Her 4 insect-like eyes watched as the tactical map filled with red dots, enemy ships. Not 1 or 2, but 47. 47 Dracor warships. They surrounded Kepler Station like a pack of hunters around a wounded animal. Massive dreadnoughts with black hulls gleamed against the starlight. Smaller attack craft darted between them, fast, sharp, and hungry. Lieutenant Keshwa, his crystalline body glowing pale blue, turned from his console. "Commander, our defense fleet is gone. All 12 ships destroyed in the first wave." The words hit her harder than the shaking walls. 12 ships. 12 crews. Gone in minutes. The Dracor had struck without warning, appearing from fold space like ghosts. No message. No negotiation. Just fire and death. Veltara forced herself to stand straight. "What about the distress signal?" "Broadcasting on all frequencies," said Communications Officer Yulin, her amphibious skin glistening with sweat. "But the nearest cooperative fleet is 3 weeks away." 3 weeks. They didn't have 3 days. Another blast hit the station's shields. The deck trembled. Sparks fell from the ceiling. Somewhere below, a power line exploded, the lights flickered, dimmed, then came back weakly. Veltara looked around the command center. Every species represented: crystal-bodied Vorak, water-breathing Aquari, winged Zephyrians like herself. Dozens of worlds all standing together, and all about to die. Then came the voice. "Incoming transmission," Yulin said softly. "It's from the Dracor flagship." The main screen changed. A face appeared, reptilian, scarred, and merciless. His yellow eyes burned with cold fire. "I am War Admiral Theknosh of the Dracor 3rd Fleet," the creature said, his voice deep and metallic. "Kepler Station will surrender immediately. All personnel will evacuate to the docking bays. Any resistance will result in your complete destruction." Veltara stepped forward, trying to sound calm. "This is Commander Veltara of Kepler Station. We are a civilian facility under galactic cooperative protection. Your attack violates 17 interstellar treaties." Theknosh laughed, a horrible grinding sound like metal scraping stone. "Treaties," he said, "are for the weak. You have 72 hours to comply. After that, we will take what we want from your wreckage." The screen went dark. For a moment no one spoke. The silence felt heavier than the alarms. Then Chief Engineer Corks's crystal body chimed softly. "Commander," he said, "they want the quantum crystal mines. Those deposits power half the colonies in this sector. How long can our shields last?" Corks blinked, his body flickering with quick calculations. "At current bombardment levels, 4 days. But if they increase power..." His glow dimmed. 2 days. Maybe less." Veltara closed her eyes for a moment. 40,000 civilians aboard. Families, children, scientists, miners. Only 8,000 could fit into evacuation ships. The math was cruel. Another blast struck the shields. The lights flickered again. Dust fell from the ceiling. The ground shook beneath her feet. "All civilian personnel to inner shelters," she ordered. "Emergency protocols in effect. Security teams assist with evacuations." Her officers rushed to obey. But fear filled every face. No one believed rescue would come. Veltara turned toward the viewing window. Beyond the transparent wall, she saw the Dracor ships moving in perfect formation. Slow, confident, merciless. Each blast of their cannons glowed like a miniature sun. She could almost feel their power through the glass. Dr. Solara's voice came through the intercom. "Medical sectors are full, Commander. We have wounded pouring in from every level. Some of the civilians refuse to leave their quarters." "Do what you can," Veltara said quietly. "We hold as long as possible." In the civilian sectors, panic spread like fire. Families crowded into shelters. Emergency lights flickered on and off. The walls groaned under the bombardment. Parents tried to calm their children, some with songs, some with silent prayers. Down one corridor, a group of Aquari children pressed their hands against a glowing wall, tracing shapes of stars. One whispered, "Someone will come, right?" No one answered. In the command center, Veltara stared at the tactical display again. Every passing second, the enemy tightened their circle. Their scanners probed the station's defenses, hunting for weaknesses. "Commander," said Yulin, her voice trembling, "the Drakor have started targeting the shield emitters directly." The next blast made the entire command deck shake. Several officers fell to the floor. Veltara gripped the console to keep her balance. "Return fire," she shouted. Dozens of defensive turrets fired back. Bright streaks of plasma hit enemy ships. A few explosions flashed in the distance. But for every Drakor ship destroyed, 10 more advanced. Veltara felt her stomach twist. This was not a battle. It was an execution. The lights dimmed again. The alarms wailed louder. The deck vibrated under another impact. Veltara's voice cracked when she whispered, "No one is coming, are they?" Her words vanished into the noise. Then far away, beyond the Drakor blockade, beyond the nebulae and cold dark, a lonely beacon blinked. The distress signal from Kepler Station reached the edge of the galaxy. It passed through abandoned relays, crossed the silence of dead worlds, and finally reached a small receiver orbiting a blue planet. A human technician looked up from his console. "Sir," he said slowly, eyes wide. "You need to see this." On his screen the alien signal played again, broken, desperate, full of static. "This is Kepler Station. Under attack. Please, anyone, help us." The technician turned to his superior. "It's real. And it's close." Somewhere deep beneath the planet's surface, engines began to awaken. The distress signal from Kepler Station drifted through space like a cry from the dead. It crossed frozen asteroid belts and the dark ruins of old colonies. It passed dying suns and abandoned outposts, echoes of civilizations that once thrived. For 3 days the signal flew on, fading with every light year, until it reached the Sol system. On a small station orbiting Jupiter, deep inside the Human Defense Network, a young operator named Eli Carter leaned back in his chair, half asleep, half listening to static. It was a slow night. Most nights were these days. Humanity hadn't received an alien signal in decades. The galaxy had been silent toward them ever since the Isolation Pact. Then the console beeped. Once, twice, a third time, louder. Eli frowned and leaned forward. The monitor glowed with weak blue lines. "Strange," he muttered. "This isn't one of ours." He adjusted the receiver, filtering through layers of static. The message came clearer, words breaking through the noise. "Kepler Station. Under attack. Civilians dying. Please, anyone help us." Eli froze. He replayed it. Again and again. The same desperate voice, alien, terrified, begging. He opened the system logs. The coordinates matched a region outside human space, on the far edge of cooperative territory. He whispered, "Oh my God," and slammed the alert button. Sirens wailed through the monitoring post. Officers rushed in, eyes wide, scanning the data on his screen. An older woman entered, Director Arya Holt, head of the station. She looked at the signal once and her face went pale. "Where did this come from?" she demanded. Eli pointed at the coordinates. "Outer cooperative sectors. It's real. Kepler Station. They're under siege by something called the Drakor." Holt exhaled slowly. "Patch it to Earth Command. Now." Far below the clouds of Earth, deep under the city of New London, the Terran Defense Command Center came alive. The lights dimmed to red as the alien signal played through the central speakers. Every word filled the room with silence. "This is Commander Veltara of Kepler Station. Drakor warships surrounding us. 40,000 civilians. Please, anyone, help us." When the message ended, no one spoke. Around the main table sat the highest-ranking human officers. Men and women who had survived the old wars. General Marcus Alvarez, gray-haired and stone-faced, leaned forward. "So the galaxy finally remembers us," he said. Admiral Reese nodded slowly. "It's been nearly 70 years since we were last called. Since they turned their backs after the siege of Vega." Alvarez stared at the holographic display, the coordinates blinking in red. "And now they beg again." There was no anger in his tone. Only quiet sadness. "Should we respond?" asked Commander Lee. "It's not our territory anymore. The cooperative expelled us long ago. If we go back, it could start another war." Admiral Reese looked at her. "And if we don't, 40,000 will die." For a moment, the only sound was the hum of the machines. Then General Alvarez stood. His voice was calm but carried steel. "Prepare fleet retribution," he said. "Activate the sleepers. Ready all dreadnoughts. The Terran Federation answers distress calls, always." In orbit above Earth, enormous shadows began to move. The Retribution fleet had slept for decades, hidden in the darkness of the upper atmosphere. Each ship, a relic of old wars, built for annihilation. Engines that hadn't burned in 50 years flared to life. Crew pods opened as soldiers and officers awakened from cryosleep. Old emblems of the Terran Federation glowed again, the twin stars of humanity shining gold against black hulls. The sound of awakening engines rolled across the void like thunder. In the command deck of the flagship TFS Vengeance, Captain Alara Miles stood before the window. Her face was pale but steady, her eyes sharp and cold. She watched as dozens of warships turned toward the edge of the galaxy. "Status report," she said. "All systems nominal," replied her AI. "Fleet Retribution ready for deployment." "Orders." Alara looked out at the stars. "We've been silent long enough. Set coordinates for Kepler Station. Full fleet jump." "Acknowledged." "Fold space drive charging." She turned to her crew, old veterans and young recruits alike. "You all know what this means. The galaxy called us monsters once. They feared what humans could do. But today, they're begging for our help." Silence filled the bridge. Then one by one the officers nodded. "Let's remind them," she said softly, "why they feared us." Meanwhile, back at Kepler Station, Commander Veltara stood in the ruins of her command deck. Smoke filled the air. Systems flickered. The bombardment had been constant for 20 hours. "Shields at 14%, reported Keshwa, his crystal body flickering weakly. "Power cells draining faster than we can restore them." Veltara pressed her hands to the console. "Keep them up as long as possible. The civilians need more time." Another explosion shook the deck. Metal screamed. A bulkhead collapsed. Dr. Solara's voice came through the intercom, broken, desperate. "Medical sectors destroyed, Commander. We're losing life support on decks 9 through 12. Veltara tried not to scream. "Reroute power from the mining reactors." "It won't hold," said Quarks the engineer. "We need a miracle." Veltara looked at the main display, the same hopeless sight, black Dracor ships circling like vultures. Her voice broke. "Miracles don't come here, Quarks. Not anymore." Light years away, inside the TFS Vengeance, alarms turned green. "Fold space drive online," said the AI. Captain Alara stood tall. "Fleet-wide transmission." Her voice echoed through every ship. "This is Captain Alara Miles of the Terran Federation. We have received a distress signal from Kepler Station. We are going in. We will not let them die alone." Every ship captain responded in unison, "Acknowledged." Alara raised her hand. "Jump." The fleet vanished. In a single moment, the void tore open as dozens of massive Terran warships disappeared into fold space. Their engines howled, a low, thunderous roar that echoed across systems. Somewhere far ahead of them, Kepler Station burned. But now, for the first time in days, hope was coming. The explosions never stopped. Every minute, another shockwave slammed through the metal bones of Kepler Station. The lights flickered between red and darkness as systems overloaded, then died. Commander Veltara stood in the command center, gripping the edge of the main console. Her hands trembled, her breathing short and sharp. Every alarm, every sound felt like another heartbeat closer to death. "Shields at 9%, shouted Lieutenant Keshwa. His crystalline body glowed a weak gray, no longer bright blue. "We can't hold much longer, Commander." Veltara's voice came out as a whisper. "Keep them up. As long as we can." Another impact hit. The deck tilted slightly under her feet. Somewhere below, a reactor exploded, a low, distant rumble that made the walls groan. Through the thick viewing window, she could see the Dracor fleet moving in perfect formation. Black and silver warships surrounded the station from every direction. Each blast from their cannons looked like a star being born, and each one tore away another piece of Kepler's defenses. "They're targeting our life support grid now," said Communications Officer Yulin. Her voice cracked. "They're trying to suffocate us before they finish the bombardment." Veltara's antennae twitched. Cruel even for the Dracor. Yulin looked down, blinking back tears. "They want us to beg, Commander." Veltara turned away from the screen. "Then they'll wait a long time." She looked around the command deck. Faces from half a dozen species stared back, tired, terrified but still standing. Vorak engineers glowed weakly. Aquari medical staff wrapped their gills with filters to breathe the smoky air. Even the massive Garaki security officers were bleeding from shattered armor, yet still ready to fight. "Commander," shouted Chief Engineer Quarks. "Section 9's shield emitters just failed. We've lost the outer habitat ring." Veltara's eyes widened. There were civilians there. Yes, said Cork softly. There were. The silence that followed was worse than the alarms. No one spoke. No one moved. Only the sound of burning circuits filled the air. Then came a soft, trembling voice through the intercom. Dr. Celera from the medical decks. Command, this is Med Bay 3. We're out of power. Wounded everywhere. The civilians, her words broke into static. We can't save everyone. Veltara clenched her fists. You save who you can, doctor. That's an order. Her voice cracked at the last word. Outside the station, the Dracor flagship Oblivion's claw moved closer. War Admiral Theknosh watched the burning station through the bridge viewport. Flames licked across the metal surface like dying embers. His scaled lips curled into a smile. Pathetic, he hissed. Look how they cling to hope. His second officer bowed. Shall we finish them, my lord? Not yet, Theknosh said. Let them suffer first. Let them understand what happens to those who stand against the Dracor Empire. He turned to his communications officer. Send a message to the station. I want to hear them plead. Back on Kepler Station, the main screen flickered. The cold, reptilian face of Theknosh appeared once again. Commander Veltara, he said, his voice low and filled with pride. I see your shields are failing. You have fought well, for prey. Surrender now and I may spare your young. Veltara stared at him, her mandibles trembling with rage. You will get nothing from us, Dracor. You are cowards hiding behind power. Theknosh laughed, showing rows of sharp teeth. Cowards? No, little insect. We are conquerors. Your species will feed our armies and your station will burn. The screen went black. Veltara slammed her fist against the console. They want us afraid, she said. Then let's make them bleed first. She turned to her team. Target the nearest cruiser. All remaining torpedoes, fire. The tactical officer hesitated. Commander, will be out of ammunition. Then we throw the station at them if we have to. The weapons fired. Bright plasma trails streaked through space and struck the Dracor cruiser head-on. The ship's hull burst open, fire spilling into the void. For one glorious moment, the command deck filled with cheers. Then 20 Dracor warships returned fire. The blast shook Kepler Station so hard that panels fell from the ceiling. The lights died completely. The air filled with the sound of cracking metal. Veltara was thrown to the floor. Pain shot through her arm. She forced herself up and shouted, Damage report. Corks's glowing body flickered. Catastrophic. Hull breaches across 4 sectors. Reactor 2 offline. Reactor 3, unstable. Evacuate those decks. It's too late for them. Veltara froze. Her breath came in short gasps. For a moment she wanted to give up, to close her eyes and let the void take her. But then she remembered the families in the lower shelters. The children crying. The civilians who still waited for a miracle. She whispered to herself, We hold till the end. Hours passed. The bombardment continued. Whole sections of Kepler Station were gone, torn open to space. Fire drifted upward, forming strange, glowing clouds. In the shelters, the survivors huddled together. Parents told stories to their children about heroes from old wars. About a time when a species called humans had fought against darkness, and won. The young didn't believe those stories. Not anymore. Humanity was a myth to them, a warning from history. The cooperative had erased their name from most records. Still, one Aquari child whispered, Maybe they'll come back someday. A faint smile touched her mother's face. Maybe. On the command deck, Cork suddenly shouted, Commander. The long-range sensors just changed. Veltara turned sharply. What do you mean? There's interference, massive energy spikes far beyond the Dracor line. Veltara frowned. Could be one of their super dreadnoughts. No, Cork said, his body glowing bright again. It's not their signature. It's something else. Yulin stared at her console, eyes wide. Fold space rupture detected, but it's not Dracor. It's... Before she could finish, every system on the station flickered, then glowed blue. The static on the screens cleared. The sensors screamed with data overload. Outside the window, the stars seemed to bend. Veltara's eyes widened. What is that? Then, in the distance, the blackness of space split open, like a wound in reality. From the void emerged shapes, enormous, dark, silent. Dozens of them. For a heartbeat, the entire station fell silent. Even the alarms seemed to fade. Keshwa whispered, Those ships. I don't recognize their design. Veltara felt her pulse race. Something ancient stirred in her memory, Stories told by her ancestors, old tales about warriors from a forgotten world. She whispered, "It can't be." The Dracor fleet began to move, weapons charging, targeting the newcomers. And then across every frequency, a new voice filled the air. Come, human. This is the Terran Federation fleet. You called for help. We heard you." The message echoed through every ship, every corridor, every heart. Veltara's hands trembled. Her eyes filled with tears. "They answered," she whispered. "By the stars, they actually answered." The stars themselves seemed to shudder. Every sensor on Kepler station screamed warnings. Radiation spikes. Fold space distortions. Unknown energy signatures. The void twisted like liquid fire. Commander Veltara could only watch as space tore open before her eyes. The Dracor fleet stopped their bombardment, confused. Even they didn't understand what they were seeing. And then, from that storm of bending light and distortion, they came. First one. Then dozens. Massive, dark gray warships emerged, their hulls scarred by time, glowing faintly with blue light. The smallest of them was larger than any Dracor battleship. Their engines burned with a silent fury, cutting through the void like blades of light. The lead ship bore a single name across its hull in ancient Terran script. Ifus Vengeance. Veltara stared, speechless. Her voice finally came out as a whisper. "Humans." Across the burning battlefield on the Dracor flagship, Admiral Theknosh rose from his throne. His scales turned pale with disbelief. "Impossible," he hissed. "They were extinct. The Terrans died centuries ago." His first officer swallowed hard. "Then what are those ships?" Theknosh slammed his clawed hand on the console. "It doesn't matter. Open fire. Burn them all." Thousands of red plasma bolts erupted from the Dracor fleet, lighting up the void. The energy storms ripped across the battlefield, enough to destroy entire moons. But the human ships did not move. They simply endured. The bolts hit their shields and vanished like raindrops on stone. The silence that followed was worse than the gunfire. Then a voice, calm, deep, human, echoed across every channel. "Unknown hostile fleet, this is Captain Marcus Hale of the Terran Federation ship Vengeance. You have attacked a protected station. You are ordered to cease fire and withdraw immediately." Static filled the air. Then Theknosh snarled back, "You dare command me, human? The galaxy belongs to the Dracor. You are." He never finished his sentence. Because the Vengeance fired. A blinding blue beam lanced across the void, silent, pure, perfect. It cut through Theknosh's flagship in a single stroke. The ship didn't explode. It simply ceased to exist. In one instant, the greatest warship of the Dracor Empire was gone. The shockwave rippled across the battlefield, scattering debris like glowing dust. Veltara fell back against her console, eyes wide. By the stars, they destroyed it with one shot. Her communications officer whispered, "Commander, they're not even aiming at us. They're protecting us." Outside, the human fleet began to move. They glided forward in perfect formation, silent, disciplined, unstoppable. Their weapons burned like miniature suns. Each salvo from the human ships turned Dracor warships into clouds of molten metal. One by one, the invaders were erased from existence. And through it all, the Terran fleet advanced, relentless, mechanical, beautiful. Deep inside the Vengeance, Captain Marcus Hale stood at the center of the bridge. His eyes were cold, his face lit by the blue glow of tactical screens. "Status?" he asked. "Tactical grid established," said his AI officer. "Enemy strength reduced by 41%. Kepler station's life signs remain critical but stable." "Good," Hale said quietly. "Lock medical transporters on their civilians. Get them out." He stared at the holographic image of the burning station. They held the line longer than anyone had a right to. The AI's voice softened. "You came for them, Captain. That's what matters." Hale didn't respond. He simply said, "Deploy the fleet. Let them remember who we are." To the survivors on Kepler station, the battle was pure chaos. Flashes of light brighter than suns, the sound of space itself tearing apart. Children huddled close to their parents in the shelters, watching the sky through shattered windows. One whispered, "Mama, who are they?" Her mother smiled through tears. "They're the humans love. The ones the story spoke of." The child stared as another Dracor ship was vaporized. "Are they going to save us?" Her mother nodded. "They already have." Back on the Dracor command vessel, one of the last still functioning, a captain screamed, "Retreat! All ships retreat!" But there was nowhere to run. The humans were already there. Small, sleek fighters detached from the larger warships, human strike craft. They moved like shadows, weaving between enemy ships with impossible precision. Each carried a single name painted on its hull: Remember Earth. Never again. Kepler's hope. They dove through Dracor lines, unleashing waves of guided plasma bursts that shredded enemy cruisers. One by one, the Dracor ships vanished into nothing but wreckage and silence. In the command center of Kepler Station, alarms began to fade. The red lights dimmed. The noise softened. Veltara stood frozen, watching as the sensors cleared. There were no more enemy signatures. Only the human fleet remained, calm, silent, surrounding them like guardians. Then a message appeared on the main screen. A human face, pale, tired, but steady. Captain Hale. Kepler Station, he said. This is the Terran Federation. We received your distress signal. You're safe now. Veltara tried to speak, but no words came. Finally, she whispered, We thought no one would come. Hale's expression softened. We always come. That's what we do. The screen flickered out. For the first time in days, the station was quiet. No alarms. No screaming. Just the low hum of surviving systems and the slow, distant sound of breathing. Outside, the human ships turned, positioning themselves in a defensive ring around Kepler Station. Their engines glowed like blue suns. Veltara looked through the cracked viewport and saw hundreds of them, each one different, each one ancient, powerful, beautiful. She whispered, They came from the void itself. How long have they been waiting? Her communications officer smiled faintly. Maybe they never left. Maybe they were just watching. Veltara felt tears slide down her cheeks. If that's true, the galaxy might still have hope. Far away on the bridge of the Vengeance, Captain Hale turned toward his crew. Signal Earth Command, he said quietly. Tell them the galaxy's on fire again. The AI's voice echoed softly. And humanity? Hale looked at the stars, his jaw tightening. Humanity just woke up. The battle was over. But the silence that followed was louder than any explosion. Kepler Station floated among the wreckage of 47 Dracor warships. Burning debris drifted slowly across the black, glowing orange like dying stars. Commander Veltara stood at the command deck, surrounded by exhausted officers. Her uniform was torn, her eyes red from lack of sleep, but she couldn't look away from the view outside. The human fleet, over 200 ships, formed a perfect wall of steel and light around the station. They didn't celebrate. They didn't speak. They simply stood guard. Status? She asked quietly. Shields are holding. Power returning to all decks. Civilian casualties, minimal. Veltara exhaled. Minimal, she whispered. After everything, that's a miracle. Moments later, the main screen lit up again. The same human face appeared, Captain Marcus Hale of the Terran Federation ship Vengeance. Commander Veltara, he said, his tone steady, calm and human. Your station is secure. We'll begin repairs and medical aid immediately. Veltara straightened her posture. Captain Hale, we are in your debt. If you hadn't come when you did. He interrupted softly. You sent a distress signal. We heard it. Her antennae twitched. But the cooperative said humans vanished centuries ago. You left the core worlds. No one knew if your species still existed. Hale's expression darkened. We left because the galaxy didn't want us. But we never stopped watching. The command center fell silent. Even the hum of machines seemed to fade. Veltara hesitated, then asked, You destroyed an entire Dracor fleet in minutes. How is that possible? For the first time Hale almost smiled. It wasn't pride, it was something colder. You could say, he replied, we learned our lessons the hard way. He turned slightly, glancing at someone off-screen. Commander, transmit the coordinates of your wounded. Our medical drones are inbound. The screen faded to black. Minutes later, hundreds of Terran drones appeared outside the station. Sleek, silver, and silent. They entered through airlocks, scanning wounded civilians, repairing shattered systems, and distributing supplies. Veltara watched in quiet awe. They're efficient. Her chief engineer, the crystalline being Quarks, watched one drone repair a reactor conduit in seconds. Efficient? Commander, this technology is hundreds of years ahead of anything we have. Veltara didn't answer. She was still staring at the human flagship outside, a massive silhouette that blotted out the stars. Elsewhere, Galactic Cooperative High Council. News of the Kepler battle spread faster than light. Every channel, every data stream carried the same words. Humanity has returned. In the vast crystal halls of the Galactic Cooperative, ambassadors shouted, argued, panicked. The Drakor lost an entire fleet in under 15 minutes, cried the Aquari delegate. That's impossible, hissed the scaled Vornik representative. No species has that kind of firepower. A holographic image of the Vengeance floated over the table. Massive, deadly, silent. The council leader, an aged being of light named Prime Archivist Rillan, whispered, "They said humans were gone, that they burned themselves out in their wars. But now," he turned to the assembly, "now they've come back, and the galaxy will never be the same." Back on Kepler station, repairs were nearly complete. Human drones worked alongside alien engineers without pause. Civilians gathered at observation decks, staring in awe at the Terran fleet. Children pointed and whispered, "Those are the humans. They came from the void." Some aliens bowed in silent thanks when human medics passed them. Others simply stared, uncertain whether to be grateful or afraid. Veltara walked down one of the corridors and saw something she would never forget. A human soldier helping a small Aquar child fix a broken toy. The soldier's armor was black, his face scarred, but his voice was gentle. "See? Just twist this piece here. There you go." The child smiled. "Thank you, Mr. Human." The soldier smiled back. "Anytime, kid. Just stay safe, okay?" Veltara turned away before the soldier could see her tears. In the command center, Captain Hale appeared once more via transmission. "Commander," he said, "the Drakor fleet that attacked you was only one of their vanguard forces. More are coming." Veltara's blood ran cold. "More?" He nodded. "Our long-range sensors show multiple jump signatures across the sector. They're bringing their main armada. What can we do?" Hale's voice hardened. "You evacuate your civilians. We'll hold the line." The statement hit her like a physical blow. "You'll stay and fight alone?" Hale looked directly into the camera. "We fought alone before." For a long moment neither spoke. Then he added quietly, "But this time you're not alone either. Remember that." The transmission ended. Veltara turned to her crew. "Begin full evacuation. Move all civilians to the human transports." Her second officer asked, "Commander, are they really doing this for us?" She looked at the human fleet outside. "No," she said softly. "They're doing it for everyone." Human flagship, TFS Vengeance. Captain Hale stood in silence as tactical displays flickered with incoming threats. "Multiple warp signatures detected," said the AI calmly. "Estimated Drakor strength, 1,000 vessels." Hale nodded slowly. "And us? 218 ships. Plus 2 carrier groups inbound." He smiled faintly. "Good odds." The bridge crew exchanged nervous looks. They all knew what good odds meant in human terms. It meant war. Hale's voice grew quiet. "We came back because someone cried for help. Now the galaxy needs to see what that means." He turned toward the window. Stars glimmered outside like cold eyes watching. "Signal the fleet," he said. "Form up. We go hunting." Kepler Station, final departure. Evacuation ships launched one after another, carrying the last civilians toward safety. Veltara stood by the viewport as the first human carriers began to move. Their engines lit up the void with white-blue light. For a moment she thought of the stories her people told, old myths about humanity, the lost warriors of the stars. They said humans had vanished into legend, leaving behind only ruins and echoes. Now those legends had returned, in steel, fire, and fury. She whispered softly, "The galaxy cried for help, and they answered." The words felt like a prayer. Final scene, the fleet advances. The human ships accelerated, vanishing one by one into fold space tunnels. Their engines left trails of burning light that stretched across the darkness like scars in the universe. Veltara watched them disappear, her heart heavy with awe and fear. She turned to her officers. "Mark this day in the logs," she said quietly. The day humanity returned. Outside, the void rippled once more. The Terran fleet howled through space, chasing the enemy back into the dark. And somewhere, deep in the cold silence between stars, every empire began to wonder the same thing. If this is what happens when humans defend others, what happens when they're truly angry? The stars burned brighter that night. From the far edges of the galaxy, the Terran fleet surged through fold space, 200 ships moving like one, their engines screaming with power that bent the void itself. At their head, the TFS Vengeance cut through the dark like a blade of blue fire. Inside, Captain Marcus Hale stood tall at the center of the command bridge. His eyes never left the tactical screen filled with red, Drakor signals, hundreds of them, forming into war formations. The galaxy was watching. Every channel, every outpost, every hidden base whispered the same words. The humans are coming. The Drakor Armada. In the black heart of the Drakor system, their grand fleet prepared for war. 1,000 warships, dreadnoughts, carriers, destroyers, gathered in orbit around their home world, Drakthol Prime. On the command throne sat Overlord Kareth, the supreme ruler of the Drakor Empire. His armor was carved from the bones of conquered species, his claws heavy with jeweled rings of power. He hissed to his generals, "The humans are only a myth. Ghosts. They cannot destroy us." But his words carried no strength. The halls were silent. Every admiral, every warrior in the chamber had seen the recordings, one Terran ship obliterating the Third Fleet in a single beam. Kareth turned to his strategist. "Where are they now?" The officer trembled. "They destroyed our forward bases at Kepler, Vornis, and Thalreen. Every defense line, gone. They're coming here, my lord." Kareth's yellow eyes narrowed. "Then let them come. The Drakor Empire does not run." But deep inside even he could feel it, the first taste of fear. The humans arrived. The void above Drakthol Prime shimmered. Dozens of fold space rifts burst open, one after another, tearing reality apart. Out of that storm came the Terran fleet, massive, cold, and silent. Each ship carried the same insignia, a broken circle around a burning world. The symbol of the Terran Federation, and their promise, never again. For a moment the Drakor fleet hesitated. Then, on command, they opened fire. Thousands of plasma bolts and rail slugs streaked across space like red comets. The human ships didn't move. They absorbed the storm. Their shields glowed white-blue, humming like thunder. Then, as one, they answered. The Vengeance fired first, a beam of pure light so bright it split the clouds of space. It hit a Drakor dreadnought and tore straight through it, carving a hole miles wide. No explosion. Just silence, and then the ship crumbled into molten fragments. The humans kept firing. Each beam was precise. Each missile hit like a god's hammer. In less than 15 minutes, a third of the Drakor fleet was gone. Inside the human flagship. "Status?" Captain Hale asked. "Enemy formations breaking," reported the AI. "Drakor command vessel attempting retreat." Hale's voice was calm, almost gentle. "They ran before. They won't run again." He stared out the window, watching a planet that once enslaved hundreds of species. "Target their fleet command ship. Full charge. No survivors." "Confirmed." The ship's weapons hummed. Blue light gathered at the center of the Vengeance, growing brighter until the bridge itself glowed white. Then the main cannon fired. The beam cut through the void, slicing through the Drakor flagship and the 5 ships behind it. For a heartbeat, everything went silent, and then the entire formation vanished in a wave of blue fire. The crew said nothing. They had seen it before. They would see it again. The fall of Drakthol Prime. On the planet's surface, cities burned as orbital strikes tore through military complexes. No civilian centers were hit, only weapon factories, fortresses, and command sites. The humans didn't kill the innocent. They came for the Empire itself. Kareth watched from his palace as fire fell from the skies. He roared, slamming his claws into the floor. "Fight back! Fight back!" But there was nothing left to fight with. His fleet was gone. His defenses were ash. He turned to his last officer. "Send surrender terms." The officer looked pale. "They're not asking for surrender, my lord. They're broadcasting a message." "Play it," Kareth snarled. The message came through every speaker, every device, every screen on the planet. A calm human voice, steady and cold. "This is the Terran Federation. The Drakor Empire has been found guilty of genocide and war crimes. Your fleets are destroyed. Your leaders are finished. The galaxy will no longer fear you. We are humanity, and we remember everything." After the fire. Hours later, the human fleet moved in silence above the ruins of the Drakor world. Not as conquerors but as judges. Captain Hale stood at the window watching the fires fade below. His second officer approached. "Sir, orders from Earth Command. We're to withdraw. Let the cooperative handle the aftermath." Hale nodded slowly. "Good. We didn't come here to rule." He turned toward the bridge crew. "Set a course back to Kepler. Begin relief operations." As the Vengeance prepared to jump, Hale looked at the burning planet one last time. "Tell them," he said quietly. "Tell the galaxy that humanity keeps its promises." Elsewhere, the aftermath. In the days that followed, the galaxy trembled. Every empire, every council, every pirate and tyrant heard the same news. The humans had returned. The Dracor Empire was gone. Worlds once enslaved began to rise again. Hope spread like wildfire. On Kepler Station, Commander Veltara stood at the observation window as the first Terran aid ships arrived. Sleek white vessels carrying food, medicine, and technology. She smiled softly as she saw the human flag, the circle of fire, painted across their hulls. Her communications officer approached. "Commander, message from the Terran fleet. They say Captain Hale sends his regards." Veltara nodded. "Tell him, thank you. For everything." The officer smiled. "He said we'll never have to ask twice. If anyone calls for help, humanity will hear it." Final scene, the human legacy. Months passed. Across the galaxy, new alliances formed, not out of fear but out of gratitude. In every port, aliens spoke quietly of the fleet that came from the void. Some called them saviors. Others called them demons of justice. But one truth was clear. The humans were no longer a myth. They were a promise. Far beyond the outer colonies, the vengeance drifted through deep space. Inside, Captain Hale watched the stars, billions of them, scattered like memories. His AI spoke softly. "You could have destroyed them all, Captain. Why show mercy?" Hale didn't answer right away. Finally he said, "Because we've been monsters before. We know what it costs." He turned from the window. "This time we're going to be better." The AI paused. "And if the galaxy forgets again?" Hale smiled, the kind of smile that wasn't warm at all. "Then we'll remind them." The ship's engines flared, and the vengeance vanished into the darkness, leaving only a faint blue trail across the stars. Epilogue, The Whisper in the Dark. Years later, children on alien worlds told the story of the day the galaxy cried for help, and the humans answered. They said the void itself howled when their ships appeared, that the stars burned brighter wherever they went. And somewhere far away in the silence between galaxies, a new distress signal began to echo. And a human voice, cold, calm, certain, whispered back, "We're on our way."